this already got attention. The fact that we messed up this guy's life entirely is already out there. Everyone's seen the injustices done to him. We are the Armed Attorneys. Today we are filming on Halloween to give you a spooky update to a case that we've covered in the past here on this channel that had the potential to make very good self-defense law and unfortunately may now fall flat. Stay tuned to hear the details, but before we get started, please subscribe to our channel. Almost 60% of our viewers are not subscribed. Help us help you with the law on firearms, self-defense, anything weapons related by subscribing to our channel. And today's episode is brought to you by our friends at Sonoran Desert Institute. If you are looking to take your hobby to the next level, check out their vast variety of courses for your gunsmithing, armorer, so much more. They are really good supporters of our channel. Please support them in turn. sdi.edu/armed-attorneys.
Now, this case, we brought this up about a year ago.
Was it that long?
Yeah. And,
Good
you know,
Lord.
what was important about it was I think it set out what could have been some new self-defense principles that I think a lot of other courts could share on. I mean, obviously, this is a Texas case, but the facts were so egregious that I could see it being cited as persuasive authority. I think we're going to lose out on that a little bit, and we'll talk about that why. But this is the William Rogers case. Mr. Rogers was in a long-time affair with this woman. She was going out of town. She asked that he feed her cat, gave him the alarm code, a key to the house. He went in. While there, her husband discovered him. Husband had a knife, about to attack Mr. Rogers. Mr. Rogers located a gun in the closet that he was hiding in, shot the husband, and was charged with burglary of a habitation with the intent to commit an assault within. And so there was very, very little sympathy for Mr. Rogers, but he was really railroaded by the courts. And even if his underlying behavior was not ideal, not something that anybody else would condone or anything like that, he basically had both of his hands tied behind his back, silenced, could not raise an issue of self-defense, couldn't raise the issue of their relationship, that he had the code to the house, that any of these things to show that he had permission to be there. And so the jury had no choice but to find him guilty. And kind of that's where we're at.
That's where we're at. Poor Rogers, though.
Sure.
I'm all sympathy for Rogers. The evil is on her, in my opinion. He wasn't married to the guy.
Sure.
I don't know.
But this has kind of an interesting history because, so convicted, went up to the appeals court. They said, no problem here. Went up to the Texas Court of Criminal Appeals. That's our equivalent of the Supreme Court for criminal cases. They said, hey, y'all messed up here. Send it back down. Evaluate the harm here. And they said, all right, we evaluated. There wasn't harm. It went back up to the Court of Criminal Appeals.
Which just tells you how badly you can get messed around with. I'm trying to clean up my language when we're on camera. When you have, I mean, just the judiciary, even good jurists, I mean, they're constrained by precedent and by, you know, the rules under which they evaluate, right? They're looking for, you know, the standard of review for what the judges have done. I mean, they can only evaluate what's in the record. I mean, there's all sorts of, your lawyer can really screw up and not preserve error, but just in a case such as this, where it would appear that the Rogers lawyers did everything right.
Yep.
And yet he's still right. I mean, it just like bad deal, good deal, bad deal. And then we're stuck now. So what happens next?
Well, and I think you raised a really good point. When we see you talk about these kind of gray self-defense cases, and we see we see the comments, hey, a good lawyer would enter whatever, you know, theory.
I'd never hire those two for my self-defense case. You can't afford me.
Yeah, look at that hat. These things.
I know you. Yeah,
but no, but
I'm a very serious lawyer.
The judge has so much control over this, and you could see. I mean, what the court did. It's called a limine, which basically means you have to approach the court before any of this stuff would come out, and the court didn't let any of this be discussed in front of a jury. And so the lawyer had to do what's called a bill of an exception. And the judge gave him almost no time to talk about that. Right. And so what is a bill of exception?
Bill of exception is essentially laying out what you would have done in front of the jury, just not in front of the jury. Yep. You hear lawyers talk about making a bill. That's making a bill. So you sit down, you examine a witness, or you cross-examine a witness, you get all the facts out that you're supposed to get out. And I mean, in a perfect world where the judges follow the law, you get to make as many bills as you want, and you get to take as much time making said bills as you want. Practically speaking, we have lots of judges who don't actually care about justice. What they care
Sure.
about is judicial economy. They care about, I've got, my vacation starting on Friday at 3 p.m. and I'm going to go and I'm not going to reschedule this thing. So we're going to be done with trial by Friday at 10 a.m. And so they're pushing things along unnecessarily because it's better for their schedule. And, because maybe they're just sick of your bullshit if you're the defense attorney oftentimes,
Yeah,
right? Because
I'd be lying if I said, I mean, I have personally observed a lawyer trying to protect his client and the judge say, all right, I got appliances being installed. You need to wrap this up. So, I mean,
well,
it happens.
yes, no, I mean, that might be a pretty day and the judge wants to go ride a bike, right? I mean,
Sure.
you just never know. And so, unfortunately, you've got to do the best you can with what you're given and protect your record as best you can, or else, I mean, your actions at trial can end up really messing up later on down the road. But the Rogers lawyers, they did everything right.
Yeah, they did a
Yeah.
great job. And it looks like they were only given minutes to kind of lay out all of those, what we'd call good facts or defensive facts that would show that he had permission to enter, that he was acting in self defense. Now, it went up to the Court of Criminal Appeals again, Texas State Supreme Court equivalent for criminal cases, and they ordered a new trial. But in the meantime, Mr. Rogers tragically passed away in jail.
R.I.P. Mr. Rogers. It is really sad, really tragic. He died an innocent man, right?
Sure,
Because
case was still pending.
case was still pending, but sitting in prison for a crime you never should have been convicted of, not really the way you want to go. And now we're in a situation in which I think his reputation is dishonored because what happens when you die when there are appeals pending, Richard?
Well, there's a couple things, but abating the appeal
Mhm.
is kind of what has happened here. So,
And withdrawing the opinions, right? I
yeah,
mean, that's the really it's just it's two punches, right?
yeah. So we have the state of Texas dismissing the case, moving to abate the appeals and the opinions in the appeal. So we have two intermediate opinions, two high court opinions. The court has ordered all those opinions abated, so they aren't precedential anymore in the state of Texas. But we see a lot of kind of like wagging the finger at the state of Texas saying, under no circumstances should you ever do this again. And I do think, even though it's not, binding precedent at this point, the court reached a right opinion. That logic would still dictate in the future. I still see this as being extremely persuasive.
In a perfect world,
Sure.
but you know the world we live in. You know the judges we deal with. You know the prosecutors on the other side. I mean, yes, in a perfect world, Richard is absolutely correct. We would all do the right thing and do justice. I mean, I'm looking at a case on appeal right now in which the prosecutor was like, "What, you want criminal history for that witness? It happened out of my county. What do you want?" Which Richard knows, and any lawyers out there know, is the most absolutely ridiculous nonsense you've ever heard because they're under duty to offer this sort of information.
Yeah.
And that it didn't happen in your county is the most ridiculous line of BS that I've ever heard in my entire. I'm really struggling not to curse today because I'm very sleep deprived
Sure.
because of my baby. It's so please, Jen, bleep me if things go south. So, we have this sort of this perfect world, but then what really happens in reality is that people are just heads.
Yeah.
There, bleep
Uh-oh.
me.
But, this is what makes this case a little spooky. Well, so he's been dead for some time now, and the court is still litigating this this
From
guy
beyond the grave.
beyond the grave. But what I think is also interesting, even though the opinions are abated, these aren't going to be we aren't all just ordered to forget like this
Right.
happened. The opinion of the court is actually very short, saying basically all your stuff's granted, state.
Mhm.
He is dismissed, he's an innocent man, right? Not convicted. But we see kind of a scathing concurrence.
Yes, we do.
Point out, all the bad things that the state did. The armed attorneys actually make an appearance in the concurring opinion. Well, and what do they say? They said,
Essentially, what the court says is this already got attention. The fact that we messed up this guy's life entirely is already out there. Everyone's seen the injustices done to him. In fact, there were YouTube videos made about said injustices. In fact, footnote, the armed attorneys made one, which, This is all sort of very sad, but also like a little bit like, ooh. But yes, so I mean, essentially, they were saying these videos that were made about him got more combined views than like 5 times the number of attorneys even who exist in the state of Texas. And so it's out there. We need to correct the record. We need to sort of do right by this man, and also smack the state down a little bit and not abate the proceedings, not withdraw, and make some good law here. But of course, that was not the majority opinion. That was simply the concurrence. And so here we are in a world where the specter of what would have been of the Rogers case haunts us.
That was really good.
Thank you.
I don't think there's I can't end on a better. Ooh, I got chills. I can't say it any
So
better
good.
than that.
So good.
But we see how, this all originated back in 2019. Man dying, not convicted, spent years in prison waiting for the justice system to right the wrongs. We see how the system can really be weaponized against someone. And so, I think that always goes back to, and I talk to clients, even if you win, you still lose, especially dying in custody. That's a big L.
Yeah, it doesn't get much worse than that.
But we're interested to see what you all have to say about this, but we hope you enjoyed this discussion. If you did, consider subscribing, hitting that like button, and help us fight the anti-2A algorithm by sharing this video.
And we hope you had a wonderful Halloween. Give us a comment below. Until next time, we're the Armed Attorneys.
Oh, no.
Oh my Richard.
We called it, but then he died.
It's actually a pretty good hook.
Yeah.